I am a 35-year-old man who was married to my 34-year-old wife for 7 years, but we have been together for 10. We had a lot in common, including a love of traveling, cooking, binge-watching television, and even having similar life goals. The one area where we didn't quite agree was our beliefs. I've always been a scientist. My wife left me for my brother because her astrologer told her that he was her true soulmate, but now she is back asking me to get back with her because she realized it was all set up by my brother and he was exposed in the worst way possible. I'm a logical person who enjoys facts and has always made decisions based on reason. My wife was the same way as me until 2020 came around, when we were stuck at home and she, like many others, became really interested in astrology. It started when she spent hours scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, and it just got worse from there. At first, it was harmless. She would read my horoscope or tell me that Mercury was in retrograde when things didn't go our way. When the limitations were lifted, I didn't really care as long as it made her happy. Lifted, the first thing she did was find a good astrologer rather than catch up with friends or return to work. I was a little taken aback, but I didn't fight it because I loved my wife and I was okay with her beliefs, even though they seemed like total nonsense to me. If this makes her happy, why isn't she hurting anyone? I'm a reasonable guy, and everyone has their quirks, so I didn't want to be dismissive or controlling, but it got to the point where she would spend $100 on astrological cleansing and birth chart readings. She also began to base every small decision on what the stars told her, consulting the astrologer for everything from what to eat to whether to take a vacation. She even began to say that certain times of the day were bad for us to discuss serious subjects, so we had to schedule our conversations. She would tell me that I couldn't make important decisions because my stars weren't aligned. Even pick fights with me because our signs weren't in sync, or because a certain planet was in retrograde. At one point, she even wanted us to move because apparently, our house's energy wasn't in sync with her rising sign or something. Since I truly loved her, I put up with everything, even though I didn't agree with it. I kept telling myself that relationships are about compromise, so I assumed it was just a strange obsession, and I didn't want to be the guy who told his wife what she could or couldn't. The day everything fell apart, I believed that if I continued to support her, she would eventually realize how insane she was getting. She made me sit down in the living room and tell me she had something very important to tell me. She looked uncomfortable and as if she was holding back tears, which made my heart sink. I knew something was wrong because she had been acting strangely for days. I tried asking her several times what was wrong, but she ignored me and kept ignoring me. In any case, she broke down in tears and informed me that her astrologer had revealed something life-altering. According to the stars, my brother, a 33-year-old man, was her true soulmate. The astrologer had reportedly done a thorough reading and discovered that their cosmic connection was stronger than ours. He also told her that our marriage was doomed from the beginning, which she agreed with because she was certain that was the reason we had so many arguments. Yes, she believed I disagreed with her assessment that wearing red on a. As I watched her sob hysterically, I realized that she was dead serious when she said that it was time for her to follow her true path with my brother. She was crying and telling me that it wasn't her choice but that the stars had made it for her. I may be able to joke about it right now because the star said that our relationship was incompatible because I was honestly flawed, but I think I actually heard a nerve in my brain pop that day. I tried to reason with her as much as I could, telling her that she was being ridiculous by allowing some space rocks millions of light years away to dictate her life, but she refused to listen. I then tried reminding her of the years we had spent together and the life we had built, but she was certain that fate had spoken. I resisted as much as I could, but everything I said was met with something based on astrology. She claimed that our marriage was a bad alignment and that my intentions were in harmony. I couldn't believe that she was discarding everything we owned because an astrologer had told her that my brother was her cosmic match. This was absurd, and to make things worse, my brother seemed completely fine with it. He didn't seem surprised or hesitant when she told him what the astrologer had said. In fact, he took her under his wing right away. That's when I had a gut feeling that something wasn't quite right. My brother and I never had the closest relationship, but for him to just. My family didn't help either. They believed in the astrological nonsense and told me to accept fate and move on, saying that if the astrologer was correct, I couldn't stand in the way of what was meant to be. I felt completely alone, and no one seemed to think it was as crazy as I did. The divorce process began soon after, and I won't go into all the specifics, but it was brutal and we had to wait the required 6 months for everything to be definitive. It was humiliating to watch my ex-wife and my brother act like a fated couple for the next year. I tried to move on, went to therapy, cut off most of my family contact, and concentrated on my work. It wasn't easy, but I was getting by at that point. A year or so later, my ex-wife texted me, saying she needed to talk to me immediately and that I hadn't spoken to her since the divorce was finalized. It was shocking to see her name appear on my phone. Was free to meet up in an hour, and to be honest, I didn't want to go because I had free time to kill, but I didn't think it was a good idea to see her, so I told her that. However, she was very insistent about seeing me because she had some important information to share with me, and I asked her to just text it to me, but she said she'd prefer to do it in person. Curiosity won out, and I decided to meet her despite the fact that she was a complete mess, appearing to have not slept in days. The first thing Did she start crying when she saw me? She said she had made a big mistake and pleaded for my forgiveness. I was perplexed and honestly didn't want to listen to her because I was only there to hear the important information she had. After she stopped apologizing so much, she finally broke the big news. It turns out that she had recently overheard my brother talking to someone else about how easy it was to win her. She waited until my brother dropped his phone to see who he was speaking to. She confronted him after learning that he had been speaking to her astrologer, and he revealed the truth. My brother had paid the astrologer to convince her that they were soulmates because he knew how much she believed in astrology and used it to get her away from me. It seems that my brother had always been envious of me, my job, my friends, and my life in general, and he wanted what I had in his growing resentment toward me. He had also become obsessed with my ex-wife for years and wanted her for himself. She told me that my brother had changed completely after they got together, becoming controlling, mean, and even emotionally abusive. She was devastated and couldn't believe she had been manipulated like that, and honestly, neither could I. She is now desperate to return to me because she has realized how wrong she was, telling me that she didn't realize how good she had it with me until she left me for my scumbag brother. She also told me that she felt humiliated that she had destroyed our relationship, our marriage, because of a lie, and she also told me that she had already broken up with my brother after learning the truth. She pleaded with me to bring her back because she thought she had been blinded by everything, but it turns out that she still loved me. I'm not sure where to start. On the one hand, I'm angry that she fell for this nonsense, and I'm angry that my brother manipulated the entire situation. But on the other hand, I still feel something for her despite everything I've been through. I've thought about what it would be like to have her back in my life, but how could I ever trust her again? I told her that I needed time to think, but in all honesty, I'm not sure if I can forgive her. I'm not even sure if I want to, because she made her decision, and now that the truth is out, I don't think I'll ever look at her the same way again. I'm not interested in taking my wife back, and after all of this update, wow, I didn't anticipate receiving so many comments. I've been receiving a lot of support and advice, and I just wanted to thank everyone who reached out. Many people in the comments asked about my relationship with my brother, so I'll explain. Growing up, my brother and I were never close. He's always been jealous of me for some reason. If I did well in school, he would get upset. If I did well in sports, he would complain, and sometimes he would even sabotage me in small ways. You have been telling me not to take my ex-wife back, and honestly, I'm leaning that way too. She made her decision, and even though it was all based on lies and manipulation, it's difficult to forget how easily she threw our marriage away. Ways such as hiding my school project on the day it was due or deliberately trying to make me look bad in front of friends. My parents always claimed that it was because he felt inadequate and that they would go out of their way to cheer him up by giving him presents or extra attention whenever he threw a fit, which only made matters worse. They always had a soft spot for him and would justify his actions by saying things like he was sensitive and he just needed more encouragement, but what they were really saying was, it's not surprising that he pulled this whole charade with my ex-wife. He's always been competitive and jealous, so when he saw something I had that he wanted, he just took it, and instead of facing the consequences, he manipulated everyone around him, including my ex-wife, into cooperating with him. I can't even count the number of times they told me to be the bigger person and let things slide just so he wouldn't feel bad looking back. The problem wasn't that my ex-wife liked astrology. I was okay with that. The problem began when she let it dictate her decisions, such as leaving me for my brother because of some cosmic forces. I also wanted to clarify that I don't think astrology is complete nonsense. I mean, it can be fun, right? I've read horoscopes before, but I never took it seriously. It's just entertainment and not necessarily something that should control your life. Connection, which is when it became problematic for me. Ever since my ex-wife came clean about the whole thing, I've been in a strange place. On the one hand, I'm glad that my marriage didn't fall apart for some mysterious reason. Instead, it was just my brother being the manipulative person he always was. On the other hand, I'm still hurt and angry because I can't believe I lost everything because of this. My ex-wife hasn't stopped trying to get me back, though, and she has been sending me gifts and flowers non-stop. The biggest update I have right now is that my brother tried to call me. Keep in mind that this man hasn't called me in over a year, and he had the audacity to call me only after he tricked my ex-wife into leaving. During the conversation, he acted as though none of this was his fault. It's awkward and honestly just makes me feel uncomfortable every time I see a new delivery because it just brings up all the old emotions again. I'm not sure what she expects, and does she really think that flowers will magically fix everything? That my ex-wife was lying, that there was a major misunderstanding about the astrologer, who said he never paid anyone off, and that the astrologer truly thought they were soulmates. Yes, I didn't believe a word he said. I've known my brother my entire life, and I know that when he's lying, he's always good at making himself look innocent, and this time was no different. He kept trying to defend his actions by claiming that it wasn't his fault if the universe wanted him to be with her, even though he had the guts to say that perhaps she wouldn't have turned to astrology in the first place if I had been a better husband. That's when I had enough, and after that call, I completely cut him off, blocked his number, and made sure he couldn't get in touch with me anymore. I'm done with him. It's difficult enough dealing with my ex-wife trying to win me back, but I don't need my brother to make things worse. Cutting him off felt like the right thing to do, but it still stings that it had to come to this. He's my brother. I can't forgive him right now, so I'm trying to put myself first. I know I deserve better than what either of them took from me, so I'm trying to move on. I'll keep you all informed if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just trying to move on and avoid the drum drama update too. Hey everyone, I didn't think I'd be back with another update so soon, but a lot has happened, and I felt like I had to share after my last post where I mentioned severing my brother's contact. Even though I didn't believe him, his entire "it was a misunderstanding" speech got to me, and I began to feel the need to find out for myself what the truth was. In addition, my ex-wife was still adamant that the astrologer was involved, which was really driving me crazy because I didn't have any concrete proof, so I made the decision to find the astrologer because I reasoned that if there was any chance of getting accurate answers, it had to come from the source. It took me some time, but I finally managed to locate him. When I first confronted him, he tried to act as though he didn't know what I was talking about. He gave me evasive answers about following the stars and cosmic connections, but I wasn't backing down. I pushed harder and told him that I knew my brother had something to do with it. Eventually, after a lot of pressure, he finally cracked and admitted that yes, my brother had paid him to tell my ex-wife that they were soulmates. He said my brother had offered him a good deal. I asked him if my brother approached him and offered him money or if he threatened the astrologer because I wanted to know how far my brother had gone to ruin my life. The astrologer told me that my brother had just offered him the money and that there were no threats involved. He attempted to defend his accepting the bribe by claiming that he was having financial difficulties and had a family to support, and while I understand that, he did not threaten the astrologer. Hearing that was both satisfying and infuriating at the same time. On the one hand, it felt good to finally have concrete proof that my brother was behind everything, but on the other, it just made my anger explode all over again. I couldn't believe the lengths my brother went to just ruin my marriage and get what he wanted. It wasn't some cosmic connection, it was manipulation, plain and simple, and suddenly things got even crazier. I don't think that scamming people and ruining their lives is a good way to make money. After I confronted him, the astrologer became frightened and began talking to others. He told them everything about how my brother had stolen his sister-in-law from me, and he began babbling to clients, friends, and anybody else who would listen about how my brother had essentially hired him to con my ex-wife. He claimed that my brother had threatened him to do so and that he had received a sizable sum of money, which I believed to be hush money. Since the man didn't seem very intelligent, the fact that he used the EY to threaten me told me that he was lying, but I suppose he did it to protect himself. I didn't find out why until a few days later, when it turned out that my ex-wife was so incensed at being duped that she went on the rampage and began posting reviews on every website and social media platform she could find. In essence, she exposed the astrologer as a phony who is easily bought off. I first learned about it from a friend who saw a post with a picture of my ex-wife's review in the local community Facebook group. At first, people talked about how shady the astrologer was, saying that they always knew he was a scammer, but eventually the conversation shifted. He turned around and tried to shift all the blame onto my brother by telling anyone who would listen that he was only following orders, saving his own skin, and throwing my brother to the wolves. The few people the astrologer spoke to went into these groups and basically told everyone about my brother's involvement in the astrologer scheme. Word quickly spread, and soon more people were discussing how my brother had stolen my wife using this entire astrology scam. From there, things became much worse. My brother's reputation is in ruins, people in our social circles are avoiding him, and he's losing friends everywhere. He's finally facing the consequences of his actions, and although I never expected things to blow up this way, it feels like justice in a strange way. Nevertheless, I'm still dealing with the mess he created, and my ex-wife is still pleading for forgiveness, saying that now that the truth is out, she's even more desperate. Business contacts are beginning to cut ties with him because no one wants to be associated with someone who would pull such a dirty move. Although I understand that she was duped, it's difficult to look past the fact that she believed this ludicrous soulmate story and abandoned me for my brother without hesitation. I'm not sure what to do about her. While part of me knows that she was deceived, another part of me feels that I can never trust her again. No matter how sorry she is emotionally, I'm still all over the place. I'm glad the truth came out, but it doesn't make up for everything that happened, I've spent so long feeling deceived by those closest to me. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been about 5 months since my last update, and a lot has changed. I thought I'd give a final update since things have mostly settled and honestly things have been a mess. My brother is finally getting what he deserves, but I'm still trying to figure out where to go from here. I feel relieved, but I also feel kind of hollow because although the truth is out, my marriage is still over, my relationship with my brother is beyond repair, and I'm left to pick up the pieces. Getting much better for me. To start, my brother's situation worsened after his reputation was severely damaged by all the fallout. Almost everyone cut him off, including his friends, business associates, and even some family members. His entire image as a successful man has been completely destroyed, and he is having difficulty maintaining his business. I've heard that he has lost a number of clients because people no longer trust him. I assumed that after everything he did to me, I wouldn't give a damn. However, I do feel a little sorry for him. It's not like I wanted his entire life to fall apart, but he made his decisions and is now dealing with the fallout. Fortunately, he hasn't tried to contact me again, but even though he didn't, my parents did so on his behalf after everything that transpired. They have stood by my brother through all the drama and believed in the astrologer's nonsense, just like my ex-wife did, but once the truth was revealed, they began to see. The first part of the conversation went well, and I opened up to them, telling them how they'd hurt me growing up by never reprimanding my brother. They apologized a lot and sounded so like they were sorry for not being there for me enough when my ex-wife left me. I was honestly surprised that they had taken the time to call me and apologize for not seeing what was going on and for not holding my brother accountable for his actions. Sincerely, I was starting to believe that there was still hope for me. That is, until my mother began talking about how sad it was that my brother had lost everything. I tried to remain calm, but I made the mistake of joining in on her conversation. The conversation soon devolved into them asking if I could help my brother in any way because they believed that he didn't deserve to lose everything. They told me that they understood my pain, but that I shouldn't be okay with seeing my brother suffer so much because they wanted me. I think that's what finally broke me down because I wanted to help my brother by making my own public statement saying that all the rumors were false and that nothing of that kind had actually happened. I know that his parents are also there, but it felt like they were still making excuses for him. I told them that I wasn't going to step in and save him, that I wasn't accountable for his problems, and that he needed to face the consequences of his own actions when I didn't hate my parents, but they needed to accept the fact that I needed to take care of my own mental health, so I decided to cut off communication with them and just keep my distance from them. When I said no, my parents became very upset and said I was being cruel and unforgiving. That's when I realized I couldn't keep talking to them about it because they were still only seeing my brother as the one who was harmed rather than realizing that he was the cause of his own mess. Since then, I've actually made a big decision. I moved to a different state because I needed a fresh start and realized that being around my family and the drama that still lingers wouldn't give me that. I found a job opportunity that fit my needs, and so it's been great. As for my ex-wife, she made a last-ditch effort to win me back, sending me a lengthy text a few weeks after my last update, explaining how she had completely cut astrology out of her life and how she was dedicated to becoming a better person. She acknowledged that she was duped, and although I respect that she is taking responsibility for her mistakes, I couldn't go back. Don't get me wrong, it was very tempting at first. We have been together for years, and there was undoubtedly a part of me that missed the security of our relationship. I did love her very much, and I felt bad for her because she was duped and used, and I know she is in pain as well, but as I sat with those feelings, I began to realize I didn't miss her as much as I missed the routine, the company, and the familiarity of a relationship, but even if astrology was no longer a part of her life, the damage was too great. No matter how much she apologized, she chose to leave me for my brother on the basis of a ridiculously manipulated belief, and I can't ignore that. I've also started dating again, though it's still early, and I've met someone who is very grounded in values, communication, and trust. We're taking things slowly, and it's been refreshing to say the least. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again to everyone who has supported me along the way. I hope you all know that I've read almost every comment and taken every piece of advice given to heart. I'm not rushing into anything, but it feels good to be with someone with whom I can actually build something real. There isn't any drama or crazy games, just two people getting to know one another. You're as content as I am with the direction my life has taken.